Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Everyone's favourite Australian MMA nerd, Callan the Rockstar Potter. Welcome, mate.
Mate, I love that title. I'll take that title every day of the week.
We really are the biggest nerds, though, when it comes to this sport, because I almost, and I know this is a big call here, I almost don't care about the UFC anymore. It's like strictly Australian MMA. We're like college basketball losers.
I like that analogy. Yeah, the college basketball guys. I don't care about the NBA. That's too mainstream. But I could not agree with you more, mate. I was as happy about being there on Saturday night as I would have been front row to any UFC card.
I was going to say, we're the Triple J of MMA. That's what we is.
Well, there's a shirt. There's Mitchell's shirt.
I'm going to make it for you and send it over. Now, mate, before we get on a rockin' to the Hex Fight Series 29 March 2nd at Melbourne Pavilion, wanted to touch on, I mean, we normally only stick to the pros, so Demolition Fight Series, you were there early on. You obviously didn't get to see the whole card because unfortunately we had two fight cards on the same night. Just a little recap, of course, of a great Wayne Carl show. What was your vibe of Demolition Fight Series when you were there?
Always great. I'm such a massive rap for Demolition Fight Series. We had one of our boys making his debut. It's such a great avenue for the amateur fighters, and Wayne, at least, they just put on a great job. I keep describing it to people as a family show, which sounds like a really strange thing to describe an MMA show. But his daughters are up the front collecting tickets. His wife's running the backstage area of his show. Like, if you can't call that a family show, what do you do? It was predominantly amateur, but we had the main event of the night being a pro fight in the welterweight ranks with Ackley getting a win over Lepage. So moving his way up in the new crop of welterweights coming into the pro ranks.
Yeah, and they really are, and they're starting to make some noise. Tom Ackley picked up a win earlier on in his career against Jono Micallef in the amateurs. So, I mean, look, no slouch. Now, I wasn't there at that fight, but...
Were you there?
No.
I was going to say, so you're not understanding my funny faces.
No, everyone doesn't. That's why I do it.
I love the boys down at Hybrid. I'm really Drummond, Khan, Sandy. They're all rippers, and I hate being that guy. Once it's done, it's done. That worst decision I've ever seen in my life. Ackley's a gun. Ackley's a really good fighter. I had a real sit down with the judges that blew my head off some of their explanations, but worst decision I've literally ever seen in my life. But Ackley, that doesn't take anything away from Ackley. He's a very good fighter. He's going to make some massive noise in this welterweight division.
Win's a win, mate, and he beat the Hex welterweight champion, and he gets to hold on to that for.
Not sure how Dirty B jumped in for a rematch.
And then, of course, I just want to touch on Jacob Lepage, who seems to be making quite a few of the new crop angry. If you talk to Sam Miles or Alfred Stoddart, who's competing March night for Beatdown Promotions, and of course Sam Miles, who just did a great welterweight display against Sam Dobb. They both do not have nice words to say about Mr. Lepage.
Oh, wow. I didn't know about Stoddart. I saw Miles pipe up, which I loved. I love it when the guys want to make some noise. Love it. I didn't know about Stoddart. That's a weight class away from Stoddart, though, isn't he? He's not looking to drop or anything.
Well, he used to be welterweight in the Demolition sort of ranks, I believe, and there's some interim title amateurs. Like, you got to love the amateur titles. Like, if people say at times amateur titles don't matter, but in Demolition Fight Series, they very much do. There's a good narrative and a good story behind all of them. And like we're seeing with the great Harry Webb, these titles are starting to indicate who might hold pro titles in the future.
Yeah, exactly right. It's a great little song. People are using it for the right reason. Again, I've got no interest to watch someone defend their amateur title for 10 consecutive fights. Get the experience you need out of it. Get a little bit of silverware to hang up on a wall, and then move on to what you need.
Well, it's funny, we were just talking about Harry Webb as I'm going back and forth with his coach, John Campbell, right now. And that does transition well into Hex Fight Series 29 March 2nd, Melbourne Pavilion. And I want to go from the top of the card down because I feel like our listeners and viewers are very good with us and they stay the whole way. So I think if we start with the main event, if you want to stick around until we trickle down, go for that. Now, Harry Webb, amazing display against Abdalla Biyada, taking him out essentially on the buzzer in round 1 for the Hex lightweight title. How impressed were you with that?
super impressed. Again, Biyada, gangster on top of gangster, making hard decisions, and didn't just show up to fight. Like, he was arguably winning. But that could. I'd love to see what the judges going to put on.
Not arguably. Like, I'll say it here. Like, he was winning that fight. Would he have won the whole fight? That's not what I'm saying. I even talked to his coach, Johnny Campbell, who said, no, Harry wasn't nervous at all out the back. I think he even had to be woken up from a sleep to talk to the pre-fight doctor. So it's like, that's how calm he was. But you would have to admit, we were standing in the exact same spot. He looked a little stiff, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he looked like he was having a little bit of a concern with the range. Biyada was doing a good job to dictate the range. In saying that, Webb did a really good job with those low kicks.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, was the decision that made him actually end up coming into a little bit more of a clinch position towards the end of that fight.
You're a very smart man, Callan Potter. That is exactly what Mr. Campbell said, that they were looking for those low kicks to get him to initiate the clinch. And then they actually have a video, almost McGregor / Aldo-esque, with they show Harry Webb working, even in a pad situation, of someone initiating the clinch and him throwing that shot over the top that eventually clipped Abdalla.
You know how I know that video's out there?
You've seen it.
Because Coach John Campbell sent it to me today.
He's a smart man. He knows when we're both recording. He knows, and he's like, these boys will talk about that.
But look, Harry Webb's what an animal. You know, he talk about getting strapped to a rocket. He's on the burner now.
Yeah, he's a superstar. I think in terms of, I think Abdalla Biyada, like, don't take what his rival Van Heerden or Carnoffley might say publicly. He has lost zero stock. Abdalla Biyada,
absolutely not.
It's very similar to when Adesanya went up to fight Jan Blachowicz for the light heavyweight title. Didn't come out, came back down. And I think, fights to make. You've got Abdalla versus Justin in May for Eternal. That's possible. Justin said that he wants to fight in May for Eternal. He essentially publicly announced that. And Abdalla's got no qualms going there. He doesn't have an opponent. Justin doesn't have an opponent, at least from what I know. And I don't see why Hex can't make the June fight. They're back in Australia in June with Carnoffley, Abdalla Biyada, and unify the belt.
I like all that. I love all of that. You know what I mean? Like, we're the nerds. We don't run the promotions. We just want to see the best fight the best. And that they're but like that Van Heerden and Biyada has to happen, doesn't it? Again, Khan's part of that mix too, absolutely. But man, like, just the back talk and all that. Geez, that fight has to happen.
And Abdalla seems to be the man of the triple threat that can go to both. I don't see Khan fighting on Eternal again, and I don't see obviously Justin coming over to Hex with the belt. Although, stick with me here. I don't know the whole back end of this, and I normally get yelled at when I talk about contracts, but I do believe Justin Van Heerden, although the champion, is out of his exclusivity. So I think it's only 6 or 9 months, and it's been nearly a year. So I don't know the back end of it, but I do think he can be approached by Hex. So expect that to throw a little spanner in the works.
Spanner in the works. We like a spanner. We don't mind a spanner.
Now, the tricky thing for Mr. Harry Webb is very similar to like when Quillan Sourkill did it, very similar to when Jono Micallef did it, is you go from being the guy of, is it too soon for him to get a title shot, to who does he fight?
Yes. Yeah, I did the matchmaking yesterday. I found it really difficult. I thought the other title fights had some really line and length shots coming next. This was the hard one. So instead of going down and trying to really rattle my brain, who's the sort of smart choice, I just went full fantasy with it. And I think I enjoy that. You know what I mean? As I said, I'm a dreamer and I'm going to dream big. 2 fights I'd love to see. The logistics behind them happening are extremely difficult, but I don't care. Again, I'm dreaming. If somehow we could get a cage fight between Harry Webb and Sourkill, I would lose my marbles. If we could somehow get a cage fight and at a good weight cut between Harry Webb and Wes Kappa, I would lose my marbles. Those fights would blow my mind.
Here's one. Now,
I like when you give it a here's one.
There's a fight that fell out over the weekend between Mr. David Martinez and Antonio Caruso at Diamondback in Adelaide. Now, Caruso is looking for a fight. Harry Webb is not that busted up. I'm just saying. Harry Webb, Caruso, any promotion.
Wow. That did not even come across. That is a massive curveball. And I love it. I love it.
Because that's a massive. The thing with Harry Webb is that's a massive name. Like that's for him that it's like when Micallef beat Luciano. Like it made his 5-0 worth so much more because of who he beat, type thing. And I feel like Webb has a similar thing. Like to kind of lap a Quillen, which is very hard to do, you need to collect names and you need to collect records. And I think Caruso is the best way to do that. Now, I am hearing that Jack Lyons is being thrown around. Now, he fought I think he fought Abdalla not too long ago, lost a close split decision. He beat
Jack
Max
Lyons
Kelly.
for Caruso.
No, Jack Lyons fought Webb.
It's Lyons is XFC, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. For some reason in my head, I had Lyons being. I was thinking of not Lyons. Oh, yeah, I was thinking of his teammate down there at Infinite. Names are mistaking me, but Jack Lyons.
Yeah. Like I don't hate that, but Caruso keeps the hype going.
I think Caruso's that, and it's certainly no shade on Lyons. Lyons is an absolute legend, super strong. But I'm just not sure that's a. I think he's sort of nipping at the heels, trying to get his spot to where Webb is now. So he needs to get some names to get to there, just as far as levels go.
I mean, there's also, if you stick in Adelaide, there's also a Tim Rogers who's 5-0. I mean,
Timmy Rogers, he's just sort of faded into the shadows. I was thinking about him in our game when you were talking about the fight being for the ISCA title. I'm like, is that to do something for keep Rogers away? Like, he's just sort of got a really big win and then just sort of faded off into the shadows, hasn't he?
Yeah, I didn't even do the math on that. Like everyone else around me did. But yeah, I think that did have something to do with Rogers not being a part of the mix with it. So, look, if I had to bet the house, Jacob Watson, Hex have been pulling off miracles this year. I would say that we just might see Harry Webb versus Caruso.
That's just for my own geekness sake. If you had a magic wand and that meant nothing, and you could place the wand and two blokes end up in the cage. Who's Harry Webb standing across from?
I don't want to see him versus Quillen. I don't.
You don't want it?
No, I don't. I don't, because it's a very similar matchup to what happened before. I think Harry Webb, you strap a rocket to him, and I know that people can say, "Oh, well, he didn't get the title shot too soon." I do think fighting Quillen is too soon. I just do. And like, you can tell me I'm wrong. And look, he ended up taking out Abdalla, and I thought it was maybe too soon for Webb as well. Not to say that I don't think he might get there. And I know that I normally like seeing the best fight the best, but I also don't want to see careers take unnecessary sort of speed bumps. Quillen's done enough. There's nothing in it for him.
I saw him on Saturday, and I said that to him. I said, mate, I hope you get your shot. You've done enough.
What they can do is they can both meet in the UFC. I'm okay with that. Like the old school.
Get me tingles, Aussie, mate. Give me tingles.
The old school Aussie cards where they used to just like make the two Aussies fight each other in front of their hometown.
Oh, Jesus. Right on it. But not to go on with that. Not to go on. He's made a bit of noise now, Mr. Webb.
Also, side note, one last one I'm thinking of: Harry Webb versus Blake Donnelly. Now I know he's coming off a loss, but that's a good enough. That's a good enough resume that I think, it still warrants a dance with Webb. And once again, I'd like to see Webb go almost on like a legend killing tour. That would be nice if he can get through. If he can get through those guys with 10, 12, 15 fights and just start wiping them all out, I think that would really garner a lot of respect for Webb.
Yeah, I got it. Something else I want to mention before we move off the Webb fight that I only thought about the other day, just again to throw a little bit of celebration back Biyada's way. Do you know, I was only maybe sort of realised, so Biyada's stepping up, you know what I mean? I'm not sure enough emphasis has been put up. He stepped up a weight class. To put that into context, that would be exactly the same as Harry Webb stepping up and fighting Aldin Bates. Like, is that not a great? Like, is that does not make me realize how much of a gangster Biyada is?
That's bang on. Like that is, yeah.
That's how much of a gangster Biyada is.
That's a perfect sort of thing to end on. As great as Harry Webb was, Abdalla needs almost as much praise just for taking it.
Yeah. As I was sort of speaking yesterday, I'll do the oddies and the fights and that at the end of the year. But I'm going to add a new title this year. I'm going to get Gangster of the Year out. The guys that is making gangster decisions, not necessarily going out and just whooping everyone, but guys just taking fights people don't want to take. I want to make sure that's really celebrated in local MMA.
I love it. Now, mate, we move on to the co-main event, which was, look, could have sold out entire card just as a one-fight card. I can't believe it was co-main event. We were spoiled. The Hex welterweight title fight, Aldin Bates taking out Jono Micallef, TKO round 4. Now, first of all, if anyone has seen it, I believe you can see the replay at beIN Sports Australia, but did you think it was an early stoppage?
Yeah, I've had a couple of people chat to you about it, including Jono's coach, Sam Haywood. He was very upset when with the initial, you and I were on the walkout area.
Sorry, just before you go to that, in the cage, you were like, oh, no, he's not protesting it. And then as they walked past us, he was like, fuck it. And you were like, oh, okay, no, he was.
Yeah, read that wrong. He obviously called his jets a little bit by the time we got back out there. The way I explained it to him and the way I put it out, it's hard. I've seen the replay and it is a lot. It's super linear. The way I explained it to him and where I would have been, and I'm not sure if I'm getting softer in retirement, I said, look, it was super close. Jono was definitely coming back up to that single, but I just don't think there was going to be anything good happen to Jono in that next 5 seconds. If you think about all that happened, like leading up to that, it was sort of swinging in Bates's favor. He was starting to take over. But the big thing to look at is every time Bates was defending the wrestlings, anytime Jono got on to hold of his leg, what was Bates' only reaction? He wasn't pummeling bundogs. If Jono grabbed hold of his legs, all Bates was doing was cracking in with anything that would move on his body. Elbows, hammer fists. So as Jono grabbed that leg, Bates wasn't going to drop his hips back and hit a perfect sprawl. Bates was going to hit him with God knows how many times. And again, hey, he might have survived it. He might have got it up. He might have knocked him out. But for a young fighter, I'm not upset to say that.
Yeah. And I think too, like, I've watched it back 5 times and I've had 5 different reactions each time. Like, yeah. I think it's early. Then I'm like, like, absolutely not. Mouth guard's out. He's kind of 2 hooks down. He's kind of doesn't know what's going on. Like we said, the ref slips in, but really if the ref doesn't jump in to halt it, Aldin's throwing bombs. I did have Aldin up the fight as well. But then also, I guess the issue too is like, it was Jono Micallef's like birthday the very next day. And I think he's only just turned 25. And I know it's hard and you can never tell a fighter or a coach or anything that a loss isn't that bad because it's ridiculous. But the dude in 10 years will still be 2 years younger than Aldin.
Great. They're all great points. I didn't have my first fight till a year after he's in right now.
And it's like
so much time.
We're going to forget that. Like Quillan Southfield got, I know this wasn't health-wise, but Quillan Southfield got dominated by a jiu-jitsu only guy in his first professional fight that never fought again. Like we don't talk about that. No. And could that fight have gone either way? Absolutely. But I would much rather have Jono fight 2 more times this year coming off a loss than have him fight 1 more time in 2 years because he's battling war wounds. And he might not agree, and I understand that, and it's hard to speak for someone, but like you said, I don't think anything good was going to happen out of that. I'd rather him learn, and maybe we see a rematch in 2-3 fights' time, as opposed to winning that fight, we don't see you again for 2 years.
Mate, everything you said then was spot on. Particularly with the age. You don't even really bring that into my thought process. But I always think of Jono as a young guy. And look at our 2 world champions. Look at Vaile, look at Whitaker. They didn't go into the UFC unblemished.
No.
You know what I mean? Look at Jack Della, who's just making absolute waves, going to kill it on the weekend. Lost his first, 2 fights?
Yeah, lost his first. Yeah, that's bang on. I mean, and even look at Volk. Like, who'd he lose to? Corey Nelson. Like, no slouch, but also he's not UFC contender or anything like that. So it's like, it happens. Like, it's not the end of the world. And at the end of the day, like, I really do think Jono, ever since that Luciano fight, I think he became a superstar.
And still is.
Take a step back, reset, kind of do all of that, and we will see him again. I guarantee that. Now, I don't necessarily want to like offer Jono any fights, but I mean, if let's say he's healthy tomorrow and he wants to start, I wouldn't mind him seeing maybe against like a JJ Ambrose, maybe a James Varkey, like just that. I think he's still in the mix. You get one more fight type thing, and all of a sudden the next fight's a title fight, because I do think Aldin is off to take on either a Kitt Campbell in Hex, or I wouldn't be surprised if we see Cam O'Neill kind of strike back and steal him and then we see the Aldin Bates Caleb Rideout fight. Wouldn't be surprised.
Go back over there. I don't. Yeah, I as far as saying it Hex, I can't imagine how the Kitt Campbell matchup is not the matchup. Like that seems so line and weak.
Yeah, I just think they might still try and make a fight for May. I don't think Aldin will be good for that, so you'd have to leave him out. You just have to. And even Kitt, I mean, we'll talk about that fight a little bit later on. I don't think Kitt or anyone's going to be ready for New Zealand, so you'd have to say May is out, but I do have it confirmed that Hex is back in June. So it's enough time.
Did Bates... I quickly just say, I saw you doing his speech. Did he hurt his hand?
Yes. Yeah. How could you not?
Idiot me. Like, he turns over and goes, "Hey, Potter," and I said, "What up, mate?" I went up and squeezed his hand.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Guys just had a 4-round war. How about you don't try to squeeze his hand, gal?
It's like maybe like my 10th MMA event covering it. Still to this day, still shake their hands. I don't know why. And even better, I don't want to hurt their hand, so you go for a knuckles. That's actually less.
Yeah, because they haven't thrown enough knuckles today. Let's give them another chance.
Good. And I can't believe, mate. I can't believe we actually are going to talk about the third fight. Cody Haddon and Paul Loga. Cody Haddon officially becoming the unified bantamweight champion, winning by, I think it was submission round 2. Is that correct?
Yes. Not 3-2. Definitely 2. Yep.
Now, Cody Haddon, I don't think, like, he had the injury as well. He's had a bit of an issue with the leg. I think take that away regardless. I think Paul Loga looked amazing.
Paul Loga looked awesome again, and that's why Cody Haddon should welcome those sort of compliments, because it made him look like an even bigger superstar. And I understand the knee might have caused him trouble, particularly with the grappling, but where Loga was impressive was keeping up the pace with the boxing exchange.
Yes,
like there was no single shots. Everything was coming out was 4s and 5s, and Loga's like, "Mate, I'll play that dance. Here's a 4 and 5 back."
It's like sat in the pocket with Cody Haddon, which not too many people would do.
No, and I was. As far as nerds go, we were very, very welcoming to that style.
We were indeed. Now, in terms of like fights to make, I think Loga. I mean, look, you take a loss at the belt. Even a couple years later, when I saw him, I think when he lost to Usyk the second time, I was like, okay, cool, he might retire. Loga doesn't look like he's slowing down at all, and I think this is only up his stock. Yeah. I would like to see him either rematched with Alan Philpott, both guys coming off a loss. They were scheduled to fight earlier.
Like that.
Or just for me and you, Paul Loga taking on Emrahan Hekimoglu. Just because I'm like,
Talk about storylines. Let's get it going. Storylines.
It needs to be. Now, in terms of Cody, I did a bit of math on this, right? I don't think we see Cody Haddon versus Colby Thickness. I don't think we see it. I know. Here's what I think we see. He wants to collect all the belts. Now, don't get me wrong. I know JD's going to hear this at Hex and he's going to go, well, I'm going to make sure this does happen. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see Cody Haddon versus Aaron Toe in May for XFC. Aaron Toe won't leave XFC, or he really doesn't want to. Cody Haddon does not care. He has some names that he wants to tick off. Aaron Toe in May, let's say he wins that. Rod Costa in Perth in June for Eternal. He's off to the UFC.
So he's just going to go like
I reckon he's going to go
Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet and just go around collecting the stones.
And I know Hex don't want to hear this, but I think he's won the Hex belt. I reckon he goes XFC belt, Eternal belt. I'm out.
mate, that'd be pimp. That'd be so pimp. I'd be all about that. And geez, he's a cool kid too. Like you talk to him and you just get such a really relaxed vibe out of him at the press conference.
Ah,
He's not too white bread where he's boring.
nah.
He's really calm and chilled and that, but he's still like got enough to him where it's like, yeah, I like you.
Yeah, he'll talk some shit. He's good.
He can spruik. He can have a spruik.
And then I just think, you know, if we do see Colby versus Cody, I think that one in its sense is just, you know, the future versus the future, the East versus the West, who is the present. Like, I think they've both been, I mean, even when you were around, they were talking about young kids called Colby Thickness and Cody Haddon.
Yeah, 100%. Like I've always, like I said to you on Saturday night, I've always for some reason thought of those two in the same thought. Not like they're the same guy, but for some reason, if I've ever thought about Cody Haddon, I've always thought about Colby Thickness and vice versa. They've always sort of been almost on a linear path.
Now, call me an idiot as well, but the thing with Colby, I just feel like he hasn't destroyed anyone. And I kind of want to see that. But it's like, or does he just have that game where he's just going to be able, you know, he might go through some adversity, but then he slowly dominates. It's like, are we never going to see him just come in and shut someone out within a round?
Yeah, like it's obviously a style thing. That being said, he actually got some really good damage off on Manu in that second round when he got some really good position. I think he's the type of fighter, some fighters go the other way. I think he's the type of fighter that's going to benefit from moving to his championship fights and getting the 5 rounds. You know what I mean? I think that's going to benefit him. His style of grappling, it looks like he's a little bit of a slow starter in most of his fights. But as he starts wearing on you with that grappling, I think he's more likely to get some dominant finishes come championship rounds.
Yeah, I also think he had 110. I think he lost the first, and then he finished with like 2 10-8s.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I mean,
got his timing down and just figured out how to get that range. Manu's such a ninja when he's moving around, but he just figured out that range gap in there. And once he got hold, he was a monster.
Now, Kitt Campbell defeating Matt Vaile it was unanimous decision, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, every round.
I just couldn't remember if it was like stopped late because so many fights were stopped on the buzzer.
Yeah.
But it was all Kitt Campbell. I mean, you know him better than anyone. What was your assessment of that fight?
Again, I'm always not impartial. You know what I mean? I was upset. I dropped to my knees when Jono got knocked. You know what I mean? And I love Bates. But same with Kitt Campbell. You know what I mean? I love Matt Vaile, big Matt Vaile fan. But, you know, these guys I spent a bit of time with. The best I've seen him. Like, I'm not sure if that's overstatement. I'm just getting caught up in the mood. Just the best I've seen him. He looked confident, he looked good, looked big. We were talking about size him, whether it's his back tattoo that's made his shoulders look 2 foot wider. But dominating with his striking, which is we've always known about, then mixing in that beautiful judo. Finally, like the man's such a gun judoka. Finally mixing that in and just showing that just being a real well-rounded martial artist. I was so stoked.
Yeah, he looked like the earlier versions of Kevin Doucet, like when we used to see him just flip people, when he flipped Jack Della on his head. Like, it's just like that back in the day. And it's like Kitt Campbell looked like a middleweight. I don't know if Matt Vaile looked smaller, but Kitt Campbell looked massive. And I become a real victim of the moment, so I'm sure enough people will tell me that I'm getting overzealous. But within one fight, I'm like, man, Kitt Campbell could make it. I mean, he's only 29. He's
Absolutely
been through wars. The UFC's not out of reach, man. He puts a couple more away, and that dream's right there. He's got, you know, the likes of UFC's Jake Matthews right there guiding him the whole way. He'd be telling him if you're not going to make it.
No, like this is not boxing. You know what I mean? You're not lose a couple and you're done. Absolutely, you got to rebuild. You know what I mean? You go back to the scoreboard. He puts a run together, gets 4 or 5, picks up a title. You know what I mean? He's again looked at. You know what I mean? If you become the best guy around, then you're the best guy around. They come to the city, they come to your town, they need a late notice guy, you're the guy. That's and what added benefit to him as well, it's always going to help me. He's an exciting fighter. Like I can't remember too many boring Kitt Campbell fights. So
I do recall someone in the front row saying they actually heard, now this is just have not confirmed, but that Matt Vaile, while he was underneath him, said to Kitt Campbell, "You've changed, you're boring." And then Kitt Campbell just loaded it even harder in.
Or during the fight.
Yeah.
That's some old dog savvy shit. He's like, I'm sick of getting held down here. I'm going to stand up.
Yeah. Now, Kitt Campbell, I think, if you're a smart man, I mean, could they vote him to go to New Zealand? Maybe, but I think that'd be a waste. I think that you sit on Kitt Campbell, you do the Aldin Bates one in Melbourne, you give Kitt his real moment. I think that's the fight to make in June. Matt Vaile, unfortunately, a little skid after some layoffs and then, of course, true losses. I mean, I think only one fight is set up for him, really. And I'd like to see him versus Luciano in New Zealand.
Spot on. That's the one I was thinking about too. I think that is a perfect matchup. Perfect matchup, him and Luciano.
And, I mean, I don't want to write someone's career on or off, but you know what I mean? If you lose that fight or whatever, then maybe you go, cool, I'm done here type thing. Or maybe it reinvigorates you and you're back in the game type thing. But I think that fight needs to happen. It was written in MMA folklore. So it's like it needs to happen. And I think it's the perfect fight for Vaile. Anything else regarding on those big 4 fights?
Mate, they're awesome. Again, all I remember is I think it was when we just got past, we just got through Bates and Jono, and we were sort of decompressing from that. And then Harry Webb walked out, and you screamed like a schoolgirl. Like the pictures in your scream, like realized there was another fighter. And I was like, yeah, this is a pretty good night.
It's the best card. It's the best card I've ever seen.
It's
in person, like in Australian MMA. It really was. Few other fights, I just kind of want to see what stood out for you out of the, I'll just run through them. Sam Campbell beating Michael Barber, split decision. Alistair Valdez beating Alex Pineras by TKO, second before the buzzer. Zach Gregson throwing around Troy Fumo. D. Samasomi defeating Mitch Harmison by decision. Ailish Smith defeating Xinyan Tan. On the buzzer, once again, round 3 by sub, and Nebetsu defeating Manny Reddy from Kick-Ass MMA by basically TKO and exhaustion. What were your standouts out of those earlier fights?
Yeah, so I missed a few of the early ones. Obviously, I had some coaching duties over at Demolition, but I did get there in time to catch a lot of the wins. Huge win for Big D. The big tough kid coming out of coming out of freestyle, undefeated amateur, all knockouts. Like, he had a lot of hype on him, and then D showed his mix. It was funny. I did a little quick one. I think the absolute move to make, as much as Sam Miles is in there and he's chirping, he's trying to get his name out there. I think D and Ackley would be a great fight. You know what I mean? I think is Ackley 1-0 or 2-0 now?
Ackley is 2-0.
2-0. So I actually got one win on Beatdown previously.
It's funny you say that because I said, what about the D Samassoni fight and the Mitch Harmison fight? They switch. And they take on like Tom Ackley and D. Samassoni fight, and then Mitch Harmison, who lost, and Jacob Lepage, who lost, fight.
Spot on. Yeah. And Sam Miles talks shit about all of them while they're fighting. I'm all about it. We'll get him in a commentary box somewhere, and he can spruik about it. I love it.
Sam Miles, I'll tell you what, Sam Miles is a budding star. I tell you that. It's coming.
I think, man. And the good thing is, I don't mind if you want to spruik, but you got to be able to fight, and the man can fight. Fight. Awesome. Ailish Smith looked amazing. I'm going to keep. If there's anyone that's got ears, I'm going to keep telling them. I just hope the female MMA scene in Australia just starts getting a little bit more light. We have got superstars now. You got your Ailish, got your Hidayah, Annie Thatcher. Again, the hardest thing is that they're all. I just named 3 killers, and they're all different weight classes. So we're just gonna. It's hard to build storylines when we can't sort of get these people together. But let's get a little bit more light on these girls.
Yeah, no. Also, even like the Annie Thatchers as well. She was like absolutely balling there. Like you said, there are some stars there. Ailish, I think her only 2 losses is Lisa Kiriakou and might be Hidayah. It's something along those lines. Like, Jacinta Austin. That's it. And it's like, yeah. So I mean, we've got to keep giving them love, and hopefully we will. Now, before we wrap this up, we got 2 big weekends of fights. We probably will not chat before then because our partners are, I believe, looking for divorce lawyers right now. We've got Beatdown Promotion 6, March 9th, and then we've got March 16th, Eternal MMA 83. We're actually, news I dropped the other day. Elliot Compton and Lachlan Stitt is out. They are still looking for
that.
Yeah, they're looking for a Lockie Stitt for an opponent. But what matchup sort of jumps out of all of those cards?
Oh, obviously the middleweight main event. Jesus, that's just that. But we were talking about that one about a month before it was getting locked in. That's the main event. Yes, I'm not talking out of line.
John Martin Fraser, Ben Johnston for the eternal middleweight belt.
Yep, and always keen to see Nickel fight. It's going to be interesting now that we're getting Gauchi on the scene at a featherweight that's been named for the New Zealand.
Yeah, New Zealand Hex.
Yeah, and his opponent, his Japanese opponent's the killer.
Yeah,
he's hard dude, knocking dudes out at Ryzen, and
yeah, I'm going to have to do a little bit of. I'm almost going to have to welcome our international opponents to our 3 flyweights, because the 3 flyweights that we have in a very similar situation to the Abdalla Justin situation, we have Sean Gauchi, Anthony Drillich, and Stewie Nickel, and neither of them are fighting each other. They're all fighting 3 internationals. So hopefully they all get through those, and we can do a bit of a dance later.
Yeah, start matching them up. So I'm very keen to see that. Speaking of, we're going to quickly spruik that. Speaking of Mr. Beatdown, we've got to start doing some spruiking for it's going to be the world's greatest grappling match. Okay, it's all the tracks are being laid. Mr. I think we've decided teams now, so it's going to be myself and Mr. D Brown taking on the steamroller Steve Kennedy and Miles M16 Simpson. We have no idea about rule set. If I'm allowed to bring a ladder into the match, I'm going to somehow do that.
Yeah,
and he's got legs.
I'm going to have to be on the outside making sure Dan Kelly doesn't come in. So we're...
Imagine that. Imagine hearing his music. I'll give him the Stone Cold music or something. And a big old Dan Kelly just comes on, make him run because he'll probably hurt himself. And he'll just come sauntering down the street. Going to hit Steve Kennedy with a steel chair.
Oh, God. 10 years. 10 years in the making, that one. No, it's been an absolute pleasure, Mr. Callan Potter. We will speak again in the near future, but look, Australian MMA, it couldn't be in a better place. Hey, we're almost heading into like a new golden era.
Yeah, mate, it's absolutely flying at the moment, and because I'm going to give all the credit to the promoters. You know what I mean? You and I give them absolute nightmares because you sit here and make matches that are never going to happen, and we give them headaches. They're putting on great cards. Hex, great card. Beatdown, great cards. Eternal, great cards. XFC putting on great matches. We're getting great cards. The fights that were supposed to happen are happening now, and that's all I'll ever ask if they're going to land it.
Exactly. All right, mate. Best of luck, and I will see you next time.
Trouble, lad.